Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going all right, Rich. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, anytime, man. Absolutely. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, well, great, man. Like I said, great. This is only my second Zoom call, so
Cool, cool.
yeah, and I sorry I got screwed up with the time. I got a
No, no, no. That's okay. You got little ones, man.
welcome everyone to the Marvel of Horror, where we discuss all things past, present, and future as they pertain to the horror genre. I'm your host, your friend, fellow horror enthusiast Bruce Marvel, and today we have writer, creator Rich Woodall. You've seen him covers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin, Masters of the Universe. He's creator, co-creator of Stars at Werewolf, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you co-creator of
The
Black
electric.
Caravan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Black Caravan and the Electric Black, the
Yeah.
Electric Black being a comic book, Black Caravan being a publishing arm of a company. Yeah, we myself and Joseph Schmalke, who is a major horror creator, we both combined our forces for more evil.
Yes. I
Yes.
love it. You started what when you were 6 years old, right?
I mean, I've been drawing forever. Yeah, I distinctly remember being in like kindergarten, and you finish your paper, whatever you're drawing, and I remember flipping it over on the back, and you're not coloring in whatever they gave you. And I started drawing probably like a GI Joe. Like I loved GI Joe at the time, and I was
Yes.
making up my own vehicles. So it was a giant circle, and I was doing the cutaway thing. So
Okay.
like, okay, on this level, this is where they sleep, and then this level is where all the weapons are, and then the tanks and stuff are down here. Yeah. So it was like that. That's my first memory of drawing. It's just gotten better since then.
Well, yeah, I've seen I mean, some of them Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the last Ronin covers are awesome. I've seen some of
Oh,
the
thanks.
Masters do the come on, man. Masters
The
of the
Matt
Universe.
that
My
that
shit.
was one of these things where I was like, I will probably never be hired to do Masters of the Universe again. So I'm gonna put everything I've got, try to get as many characters as I can into this. That was really cool because they sent us a style guide for Masters of the Universe, and it literally had every toy they've ever produced. I
See,
mean, this thing was like 200 or 300 pages long.
like I said, I remember having like all those toys. I was young enough, or I'm old, I'm just the right age where He-Man still had a lot of glory years before it went under, but I was still young enough to start collecting Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I
Yeah,
went right into I mean, I had like GI Joes and like superheroes and stuff too, but yeah, Masters of the Universe and like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were like my biggest toy collections like growing up.
yeah.
Like I remember getting Eternia. I was like the only me
Oh,
and my brothers were like we were the only ones we ever like knew who even had that thing.
yeah, yeah. I never had. I remember seeing it, but I didn't have it.
But I always wanted Snake Mountain, and I never got Snake Mountain.
Right.
So as an
Yeah.
adult, when I had money, I went and
Yeah,
bought
now you
Snake
can,
Mountain.
yeah. Now we can buy all the cool shit that we couldn't afford, our parents couldn't afford as kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And now I just have a wife saying you got to stop buying this thing,
right. Yeah.
or you got
Yeah.
to sell something else.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, you run out of room, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
obviously you're like a big horror guy. See the Jason mask in the background, like your
Yeah.
artwork reflects that a lot, man. What was your first real experience with like the horror genre? Was it like a movie? Was it a character per se?
As a really young kid, like my dad is really into movies. And he was into horror movies. Between my dad being into horror movies and my grandparents being into like old sci-fi movies, like my dad would show me, and I really remember this was horrible, uh, or amazing. I lived in the middle of Arkansas, or in the middle of like nowhere, Arkansas. So we lived out in the woods, far away from anything. Like our nearest neighbor was, I think we could see them, but yeah, like there's not a lot of people around. But I remember my dad showed me Evil Dead
Oh wow.
and I was like 5 or 6. And so yeah, he scared the shit out of me any chance he got. and he loved it. Like Jaws, actually, Jaws was probably the first horror movie I ever saw, and he would jump scare me when the boat would come. And Hooper would go down and get the tooth, and the
Oh
head would
yeah.
come out. He would grab me and scream every time, right? So I would ah! But Evil Dead really did it because I'm like, this is where I live, right? You're out in the middle of the woods, and I remember going out and grabbing like a gardening shovel that my mom had, and I was like, well, I guess this is gonna have to do. Like, I'm gonna have to chop up some people like with this if something goes down.
If something comes out of the
Yeah,
ground or trees try to rape me, I have the shovel.
I have this shovel that I'm sure, yeah, I'm not gonna last very long.
I
But on
saw
the
it worked.
on the yeah, yeah, I saw so on the opposite side of that with my grandparents, like I spent a lot of time, they lived down the road from us, spent a lot of time with them. Like my grandmother's version of horror was like Day of the Triffids. So
Okay.
she shows me that and she's like, "Oh, this is a scary movie. Like I don't want to scare you too bad." And meanwhile, I'm like, I've already seen like this demon in a basement like
Yeah.
trying to get out. I am good with Day of the Triffids. Yeah. But yeah, like that was the start of it. And I actually have these two comics I had when I was a kid. These are like from 1983, 84.
Yes.
And like so these are the some of the earliest comics that I had as a kid. And it was like random comics, right? Like I don't know how I got them. I'm sure I was probably at a grocery store and I just grabbed them, or my parents or grandparents gave them to me. But like I had random things like Star Wars. I had lots of Star Wars and GI Joe comics, and then like just random like a Batman here or Swamp Thing, and yeah, Ghost Tale. Yeah, it's weird. One night it was like probably 10 or 12. We're driving down the road again, the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. It's a dirt road, and well, actually, I got two stories. If you don't mind, I don't want to
Yeah,
take up.
dude, man, go ahead, please. This is good.
So he hits a bump. It's a dirt road. There's lots of bumps. Hits a bump, and he goes, "Oh my God, I just hit a werewolf." And so my brother and I go to the back of we're like in this van, right? We go to the back of the van and we're like hanging on, like looking out the back, and all you can see is red taillights.
Hmm.
And my brother screams, "Dad, go faster. He's chasing us." And I'm like, "Oh my God, like I don't see anything, but yeah, go faster." And another time it was Halloween, and my dad was telling us stories about when he was a kid and telling us about ghouls. And he's like, "Yeah, so ghouls, what they did was they would come out only on Halloween night, and they would get you and grab you and eat you, right? But they had to go back into their graves when the sun came up." And he told us like, one night I was out on Halloween as a kid and I stayed out all night and I walked past this graveyard going home, and this ghoul chased me, but then the sun came up, so he had to go. So he feeds all this into our heads. And then I didn't know this at the time, but his gas meter did not work in the truck that he had. It was like an old beat up truck, right? It always read empty. So he starts pumping the gas and stops the truck right in front of a graveyard on Halloween night, the night that the ghouls are coming out. And he's like, "All right, guys, be quiet. I'm gonna go get gas. Be quiet. I'm gonna be gone for an hour. I'm gonna get gas, but you have to stay in the floorboard of the truck and be quiet, or the ghoul's gonna come and get you." So we're like, again, losing our minds,
Yeah.
getting to the floorboard of the truck, like trying to, don't say anything. He went like we're watching him go. You see the headlights. He goes as far as we can see him and doubled back in the woods and jumped in the back of the truck and starts slamming on the roof of the truck.
Wow.
I pissed myself out of fear, and I'm pretty sure he got mad at me.
He got mad at you.
Yeah, like kind of your fault. I pissed myself, but yeah, like horror was always there. It was, and he loved it.
When we were kids, there was a place literally called Satan's Landing.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Like we're just laying it all out there for you.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I wanna say I think I was like 6, maybe 7 years old. I think
Yeah.
could have been older than 8, and it's like, "Yeah, we're going to Satan's Landing for the weekend." I remember going and it just being, like, legit scary all the time. Like, we used to go to Wildwood Beach, like, every summer, and, Wildwood Beach had a thing called it was literally called Dracula's Castle.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, man, you could take a tour inside where they had, like, a boat ride, like, underneath the castle, and
Yeah.
I'll never forget, like, my dad's like, "Yeah, come on, I'm gonna get" and I'm like I said, I'm, like, maybe 6
Yeah.
years old, maybe 7 years old, and I'm, like,
Yeah.
terrified, but I love it too. Like, I'd already loved monsters by then.
Yeah.
I'll never forget getting in this boat ride, and the guy looked at my yeah, I didn't see him, like, the guy was cool, but my dad kinda gave him, like, the go ahead, like, "Yeah, if you wanna kinda
Yeah.
creep him, he's alright, he's with me, he's cool."
Yeah.
Guy grabbed me before I got in, and he's like, "Before you get on, there's only one rule, no blood in the boat." And I was like,
Okay. I'm trying
"Ooh,"
not
and I
to
looked at my
laugh.
dad, and my dad's like, "Alright, we gotta be no blood in the boat, we gotta be safe."
Yes. Yeah.
I've been out of the comic world for a while, like,
Sure.
I go and
Oh,
read some of the Hellboy stuff, but I'm
yeah.
the mainstream stuff is, like, kinda dead to me.
Yeah, right now is kind of a really cool spot for horror fans, especially in comics. There's stuff like I don't know if you've checked out Something is Killing the Children.
No.
There's just a lot of really good horror books right now. The books that I'm working on right now, I've got a book called The Bloody Ring of Dracula,
I
and
saw that, I was looking at that, and it looked really good.
oh, thank you. Yeah, that's with my my partner from Gods of Brutality, um, Mark Welzer. We as we were kind of wrapping up the end of Gods of Brutality, we're thinking about what are we going to do for the next, for the second part, the second story arc. And one of the things that I think Mark threw out was like, I'd love to do like a Lucha Dracula. Like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then we were thinking, well, and this is giving away what we were thinking, but it's okay. It's going to be a long time before we get there. We were thinking, oh, well, what if? So Gods of Brutality is about a rock star from the '80s who dies and goes to hell, and then he prays to like everybody, like whoever will listen to save him. And Thor and Hercules come down to save him. And so the entire book is just Thor and Hercules and this rock star just destroying demons, right? And going through it. They're not out of hell, and they won't be for like several story arcs, but that's the basis. And we thought, oh well, what if in the second season, like they have to fight like a Lucha Dracula in hell, like he's got his own like wrestling thing in hell, and then we're like, well, it'd be fun to tell the origin of how Dracula got to hell as a lucha wrestler. And so that's
Yeah.
what the book that we're doing right now. It starts where the Dracula novel ends with Van Helsing coming to kill him, only he gets away and makes his way down to Mexico and becomes a lucha wrestler.
That sounds like a great movie nobody's, like, putting into,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, come on,
Yeah,
they gave us Wolf Cop, I wanna see Lucha Dracula.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want a budget for this thing. I just want it to be cheapo, like, yeah, film it in a weekend, have fun. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, well, let me know if there's a GoFundMe ever to make this
Yeah,
movie.
I will.
Right. Hey,
Absolutely.
Jason Coltriano, who works at Captain Blue Hand Comics up by our way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he was talking about that book. I had him on the show like I wanna say almost a year ago.
Yeah. No, Jason's the one who he sent me to you.
Yes,
He's
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was talking about that book.
He's awesome. All the
Uh,
guys at Captain Blueham are great.
I'm really glad there's guys like you out there, like, really still doing
Oh,
it,
thank
even if
you.
it's independent stuff, but if you had the money and you
Yeah.
had the time, you had out and the stars align, like, what's a dream horror project for you as far as
Oh
comics?
man. You know what? They're doing it now at Skybound. The guys who put out The Walking Dead and Invincible, Robert Kirkman's imprint for Image. I've always wanted to do a Universal Monsters universe. I
Yes.
want to do a universe, right? Like it amazes me that Universal cannot figure out how to do the Universal monsters today.
Oh my God, I am glad.
Yeah.
This is a great segue. Yes, please, because I have a feeling where we're going with this, but
Yes.
man, you're right. They
Yeah,
can't figure
like
it out.
no, but it's easy.
It is easy.
You put it in the 17 1800s in a fake European world, right? And that's all you need. You take out all the cell phones and technology and bullshit that we have to deal with today, and you make it simple. Like it's monsters and people, and
Yeah, it
it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
it really doesn't, and I'm glad because I watched these films and I saw what I like the 2010 Wolfman. I
Yes,
really
I
did,
did
and
too,
then
and that was kind of set back in the day, so it was yeah,
and it worked, and you
yeah,
thought something was gonna come out of that, it didn't, and then you saw what
yeah,
they were trying to do with The Mummy,
right.
and which I didn't hate the
No,
movie.
but but it's not what you were, yeah, not what we're
No,
looking for.
and I'm sitting there like this,
Yeah,
like, man, they already
yeah,
made a universe back in, like, the '40s,
right,
and
yeah.
it was excellent.
It was great, yeah. It's crazy. You look at the overall, it's basically Frankenstein and Dracula, the Invisible Man, like those could definitely be at the same time. Creature was a little late, I guess Creature at the time was set in modern day, right?
Yeah, because it was, I think Creature was, like, what? I think it was, like, 56 maybe, 55?
Yeah.
It's something
And
like
it felt modern day, 50s, which is fine because it was kind of atomic. It was that was that bridge between atomic age stuff and old horror, the old mythological kind of creatures.
yeah, yeah, I think that's, like, the decade where we got, like, 20 Monster from 20,000 Phantoms and all I mean,
Right.
which is all great stuff. Monster Who
Yeah.
Challenged the World, like, all that great
Oh
stuff.
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely like that post-nuclear bomb
Yeah.
era, you know what I mean? But the
Yeah.
classic but, like, to your point, though, like, the classic stuff, and me and people, like, going on about this all the time, it's like they were the Marvel Cinematic Universe
Right.
before the
Yeah.
Marvel Cinematic Universe,
Absolutely.
and it's like,
Yeah.
man, it's like, how do we connect them? I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe go watch Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein
Right.
is it's right
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that I mean that modernized them, but at the same time, maybe it's a nostalgia thing for us. Like it didn't feel modern because it's not modern for us. That was the Abbott and Costello stuff was set in like the 50s or whatever.
over email, you were talking like, much like me, you love the old Universal stuff, and I'm guessing what am I correct in thinking the Wolfman's your favorite?
It's I think Frankenstein is it is tough. You every day you ask me, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's Frankenstein today. Oh, it's Wolfman today." Yeah, I mean it's the big three. Dracula, Frankenstein, and Wolfman. Those are my absolute favorite, and that's why I'm doing Sergeant Werewolf. It's like I do a comic Sergeant Werewolf. I've got the Bloody Ring of Dracula, and then I have another book that I'm drawing called Space Frankenstein is Angry.
Oh my
And
god, when does that come out?
yeah, I'm really really slow, so it's gonna be a little while. But the idea behind that is when instead of Frankenstein kind of going off to the Arctic, he ends up in space, and then he's frozen in like the Cooper belt, right, for a couple hundred years. And once explorers start mining out there, they find him and they wake him back up, and he's got like a gear shift in him, so he can like put it into like hyper overdrive and just like become muscular and just rip things apart. Anyway, it's just dumb action, which is how I describe all my books. They're just dumb action, it's monsters and stuff. But like that's why I did those three, is I just wanted to do universal monsters, but I want to put my weird twist on them. My local comic shop is Jetpack Comics, and it's run by this guy Ralph DiBernardo. And 40 years ago, Ralph put on the very first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles convention. I mean, it wasn't a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles convention at the time, but it was the first show that Eastman and Laird were at, and they sold Turtles One. And they actually gave Ralph a bunch of copies. He had a local comic shop. This was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is like 20 minutes from here. Ralph cut them all up and pasted them to the window of his shop as like promotion, right? Because this is a little shitty comic that, you know, some two local guys made. Here's 100 copies cut up and hung up in my window. Now that book is worth crazy
Yeah.
money now. I mean, he had like $1 million worth of cut up
Oh god.
covers on his window. So 40 years later, fast forward, Ralph is putting on a Turtles convention that's the 40th anniversary in Portsmouth. And I'm doing all the design work for him and everything for the show. And there's lots of Turtles guests. Kevin's gonna be there, and a lot of guys from Mirage Studios are gonna be there.
Oh
It's
man,
gonna
that's
be that's
awesome.
gonna be awesome. That's in April. I think when we were emailing each other, we were talking about like what do we want to talk about, and I mentioned that like I had just got a bunch of like 70s DC horror stuff, like House of Secrets and House of Mystery and stuff like that. And I mean, Wrightson hit at that right time, and he was kind of like there were a lot of really good horror artists at the time, but I always kind of compare him to like he was like the Wally Wood of that time, like from the EC days. Like Wally
Mhm.
Wood was always my favorite illustrator, or after I found out about him. Like Wally Wood was amazing, and Wrightson kind of had some of that Wally Wood kind of, I don't know, DNA in him. But yeah, Wrightson stuff's just so freaking good, and he just pushed the barriers of art to a whole new level.
Like, I remember the first time I ever saw his stuff, and I didn't even realize it was him. Like, it took me, I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh shit, that's so and so." It's like because I had my old copy of Cycle of the Werewolf.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, "Holy shit!" I never even realized like that's you know what I mean. I read that later. I was like, "Man, this is really cool artwork, and this is really
Yeah.
cool stuff." And then like years later, I got that Frankenstein. I'm like, "Oh shit, Bernie." Then I was
Same
reading,
guy. Yeah.
reading Swamp Thing hardcover or
Yeah.
hardcover trades. I was like, "Fuck, it's that guy. This is awesome."
He just keeps
But
popping up. Yeah.
yeah. So there's horror comics, like, I think the EC stuff, because we were talking, like, I think
Yeah.
they're bringing that stuff back, right?
They are, yeah. Somebody bought the rights to produce new EC stuff, and the weird thing is, or interesting, kind of cool, maybe, is that they're not doing, as far as I know, they're not doing like the traditional Tales from the Crypt or like weird science fantasy or anything like that. They're coming up with like new titles, Beyond the Abyss or whatever it is. I can't remember, but like they have a lot of horror writers from now. Jason, I think Jason Aaron is one of the guys that I'm looking forward
Okay.
to.
I'm looking forward to it. Like, it's cool, man. That
Yeah,
I hope it just because I mean, like you said, like we were talking way earlier in the show, it's like there's a lot of this horror stuff out there, and there's such an audience for it. It's like, yeah, man, bring on something new, but try. I hope they try and hold on to like that old style of the artwork. Like, don't carbon copy it.
right. At comic shows or whatever, a lot of times people will come up and get commissions or whatever, and they'll be like, "Oh, can you draw My Little Pony?" And I'll kind of look at my stuff. I'm like, "What about what I do tells you that I would be the one that you should choose My Little Pony for, right?" Like it's weird, but there's guys that are really good at putting a lot of ink down on a page and getting that mood and that atmosphere and everything. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool to see these guys that build that kind of thing, and it is reminiscent of those EC books. And I mean, those guys were so good at it, and
Yeah.
they were pumping out stories like like on a crazy fast basis back then.
I got this story because we were talking about Pittsburgh. An old buddy of mine named Rob, he's really big into the Flash.
Yeah.
So This was back in the day when you can actually get a sketch from Adam Hughes.
Sure. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
tells you how long ago this was.
Right.
So he got up in the morning and he got there first in line and he's like, all right, I want to get on the list. I want this commission. I want Jesse Quick because she's like
Yeah.
a Flash, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like he's like, okay. He gets his name down, pays. All right, cool. So, we're going through the show. It's a couple hours later. He stops back, and Adam Hughes is like, "What do you think?" All you see, if it's a paper like this big, right?
Yeah.
Jesse Quick's head is up here, like
Yeah.
upside down.
Yeah.
There's a banana peel right here, and
Yeah.
and he's like, and I forget how much it was back then, but even back then it wasn't
Yeah.
cheap. It was like Adam Hughes, and he was still like a guy. And he was like, "All right, that'll be that'll be $150, or I'll be like, $180. What do
Yeah.
you think?"
Like, I think
And you can see like my friend Rob's like looking at it, and he's got a
yeah.
Flash t-shirt on, and
Right.
he's getting his red is like the Flash shirt. He's like,
Oh no.
and Adam must have saw he was gonna like just blow a gas. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, it's a joke, man. It's a joke, man. Flip it over." And he flipped it over, and there's the Jesse Quick,
Yeah.
Bruce, whatever.
Oh,
And man, we were all just like we were laughing, but we were like,
yeah. You're like, whew.
because it's like Saturday. It is a 3-day event. This guy's gonna
Yeah.
kill Adam Hughes.
He's gonna, yeah.
We're gonna be asked to leave. We got to, and we're staying here.
Right. Yeah. This is gonna complicate things.
Oh
Oh
my god, it
man.
was so funny, and he was so yeah, man, $150. What do you think? He was like, he played it so good. It's just like, when you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, what the fuck is this? And then you realize, like, what you like?
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. That's great. Oh,
It was
that's
cool,
rough
and
though, because I've seen some things that don't turn out well.
no,
Yeah, and you're like, oh, and these people are super pissed, and yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I seen a
That's
guy.
hilarious. There's one artist, I don't want to name him, but he big Marvel artist, and I've had several friends tell me because I was at a show with this guy. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited, so and so is here, and I've had several friends be like, if you get a commission from him, write it down on the piece of paper because you will not get the person you're asking for. They're like, we went to him for Colossus, and when we came back, like it was Spider-Man. And you're like, I like Spider-Man and all, but I really want Colossus. But they're like, yeah, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to like complain that we got this beautiful, illustrate because they look great. But the ones that it hurts is like I've had a couple people that, they have theme sketchbooks.
Yeah,
So when somebody, you're looking through it and it's like a Mary Jane sketchbook, and it's like Mary Jane, Mary Jane, Mary Jane, uh, then it's like Storm from the X-Men, and you're like, what happened there?
so a buddy of mine, he was putting a Robin thing together. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And this was like Philly Wizard World, 2002 or whatever.
yeah,
And I won't say the artist's name. Being a kid, I loved his stuff.
yeah,
He worked on a, if I say what book he worked on, it'll give
yeah.
it
Then
away.
oh yeah, I got
But it
it.
was a supernatural character in Marvel that he worked on.
Okay,
We'll
yeah,
leave it at that. And so he was like, "Yeah, man, well, dude, I want Robin," and he's like, "Robin,
like I don't draw Robin.
ah, Sabretooth instead. Just do that." And he did this real quick, like it's awesome, but he did this real quick, like head sketch of like Sabretooth. He's like, man, yeah, there you go. And he was just like, and it was the same thing. He's sitting there because he was starstruck. He met the guy
Yeah,
he wanted to meet, but he was like, yeah, it's cool, but
yeah. I got to rip this out of my book now.
yeah, I don't. He's walking away like this. Like, yeah, I got this cool picture of fucking Sabretooth. I didn't
Right,
fucking
yeah,
want. Even if I was going to ask for a Marvel character, I wasn't going to ask for Sabretooth.
right. Yeah, here's a top 10 list. Sabretooth is not on there.
Yeah, and that's like, how do you go from Robin to Sabretooth? I don't
Right,
know.
yeah, totally makes sense. My friend Joe, he does not he likes to draw what he likes to draw, right? So he's very blunt with people. If somebody's like, "Hey, can I get a Robin?" He'll be like, "No, I don't want to draw a Robin. I like to draw. You've again, you've seen what I do. Give me something in my wheelhouse," which I really respect. I need to get better at that because I'm not. Because if that person comes up and says, "I want My Little Pony," I'll be pulling out my phone for reference. Like, all right, I'll draw you. I'm gonna dance monkey dance. You know,
Mhm. The more sketches you can do, the better your weekend's gonna be. I mean, so it's
absolutely.
like,
And
yeah,
that's
so
yeah,
if someone comes up and it's like, "Well, I want My Little Pony," it's like, "Fuck, I've never drawn one of
right,
I
right.
gotta figure out real quick how to do it."
Yeah,
But you might have
yeah,
been able to get like 2 or 3 sketches done in that time. That's
right.
what the consumer don't understand.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. I've on private commissions when people email me or whatever, I'll push back a little bit with them. I'll be like, "All right, listen, I'm not good at drawing what you just asked for. I am better at drawing these things, but if you insist, I will draw that for you. It probably won't look as good as it should."
Well,
You
like I said,
know?
at least you're honest. At least you're not like,
Yeah,
"I can do that," and then it's like you give someone Doctor Doom and a red
right, exactly.
hey, buddy."
Hey, oh, yeah.
Any horror movies, coming out you're looking forward to? Anything
You,
new on the horizon you'd wanna see?
I still haven't watched Voyage of the Demeanor yet.
Oh.
I'm really looking for I saw yesterday that it was streaming on one of the 100 platforms. So I'm hoping to see that soon. Yeah, I mean I want to see anything that Del Toro does, so that Frankenstein is I'm looking forward to that.
I'm scared. I'm scared, like Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah,
Neil, if you're out there, call me
right, yeah,
Frankenstein's monster. I know you won't let me hear the end of it if I say, "Yeah, Frankenstein,
right.
the monster." Uh, that's
It's
my number
it's
one.
yeah, it's a holy thing, right?
It's very sacred. It's very holy. So it's like I'll be really devastated if it's not good.
Yes. Yeah,
And I already have such a high standard
right.
he has to meet.
When I see a filmmaker like the new Nosferatu that Eggers is doing, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to that
me
because I have
too.
faith in what he can do. And that's kind of how I feel about Del Toro. I'm like he loves that subject matter. He loves Frankenstein as a story. So I'm like in my heart I'm like, "Oh, this should be good."
Dude, Rich, I'm gonna call it here, man.
Yeah,
I can easily talk to you for like another
I
3
know. I
hours.
know. I know my wife has probably texted me like 10 times, like, "Hey, where are you at?"
Again, I want to thank Rich Woodall for coming on to the Marvel of Horror. Find us at the Marvel of Horror podcast on YouTube. Like, subscribe, leave your comments below. We want to hear from you. And we do Zoom calls now. If you want to be on the show, or you know someone who wants to be on a show, you want to talk some horror, you want to bullshit about Doctor Doom and Red Capes or whatever. And like I said, thank you again, Rich, man, dude.
Oh,
I
thanks for
definitely
having
want to
me.
talk to you again.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna send you my address because I'm trying
Yes.
to get Frankenstein in space.
Yeah.
I'm all over that. I hope that's a movie somebody makes. I mean,
Oh,
the
that would be
internet's listening to
fantastic.
everything, so maybe 3 years from now we'll see that on Shutter.
Oh, that's probably about the time that I'll put out the comic too. I'm so slow.
Excellence takes time.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm gonna have on my grave.
Rich, thank you so much,
Dude,
man.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
dude, no problem, man. No problem. And like I said, I definitely would love to have you back. And I could
I
easily,
am. We can talk about anything for a long time, so I
yes,
like that.
very good, my man. Dude, take care and
Yeah,
thank you
you
again.
too. I'll see you later.
All right, boss.